Karen. He was a man who, in Stanley's eyes, would be as interested in Karen as he would be in a particularly attractive head of lettuce. He was safe as an armored truck. Chapter 2. The Birthday Gamble. Upstairs in apartment 201, the atmosphere was considerably more chaotic. The air smelled of burnt sugar and cheap cologne. Jack Tripper was currently engaged in a delicate operation involving a cake and a spatula. Jana Wood, the brunette soul of the apartment, was in the kitchen, blissfully unaware of the minor disaster unfolding in the living room. Chrissy Snow, her blonde hair tied back in a messy ponytail, watched Jack with wide-eyed apprehension. "Jack, why does the cake say Jimmy?" Jack sighed, scraping at the frosting with the intensity of a surgeon. "Because Jimmy didn't pick up his order, Chrissy. I got it at half price at the bakery. If I can just scrape off the my, it reads Happy Birthday Jay, which is informal, very chic, very minimalist. But her name is Jana," Chrissy pointed out, her logic as impeccable as it was inconvenient. "Details, Chrissy, details." Jack waved the spatula dismissively. "Jana starts with a J. J starts with a J. It's a linguistic victory for our bank account." The roommates were broke a chronic condition that defined their existence. Jeanette's birthday was a looming financial crisis. Jack had hawked Jeanette's grandmother's cameo months ago to pay the rent, a secret that gnawed at him every time he saw her jewelry box. He was determined to make this birthday special, even if it meant serving a repurposed Jimmy cake. The door creaked open, and Stanley Roper stepped in, his presence immediately lowering the room's energy like a cold front. He looked at Jack with a mixture of pity and calculated intent. "Jack, could I see you for a minute?" Stanley asked, ignoring the girls. Jack, always wary of the landlord, wiped his hands on his apron. "Sure, Mr. Roper." "What's up?" "Sink leaking, pipes banging. My rent is coming, I promise." Stanley's pitch was simple. Take Karen out. Show her the town. Keep her away from the weirdos. To Jack, the idea was a non-starter. It was Jeanette's birthday. He had a J cake to finish and a dinner to cook. "I can't, Mr. Roper. It's Jeanette's birthday. We have a whole dinner planned. Candles, music, the works." But Stanley was desperate. He pulled out a crumpled $50 bill of fortune in the economy of apartment 201. $50, Jack. And you can use my car. It's got half a tank of gas and only makes a screaming noise when you turn left. Jack's eyes widened. $50. That was more than enough to get Jeanette's cameo back from the pawn shop. It was the answer to his prayers and the source of a new moral dilemma. $50, Jack whispered, his voice cracking. "Yeah, just take her dancing. The way you kids dance nowadays, you don't even have to touch her. It's very hygienic." Jack looked at the bill, then at the kitchen where Jana was humming a tune, the guilt of the cameo one. "Okay, Mr. Roper, I'll do it, but I have to be back for the party." When Karen walked in, Jack's expectations, shaped by Stanley's own face, were shattered. Karen wasn't a female Stanley. She was stunning. She had New York sophistication, dark eyes that danced with secrets, and a gaze that seemed to see right through Jack's safe persona. "Hi," she said, her voice a sultry contrast to the suburban quiet of Santa Monica. Jack fumbled, nearly dropping his spatula. "Hi, I'm Jack. I'm your tour guide, your escort, your guy for the night." "I'd love it," Karen replied, a predatory glint in her eye that Jack missed, but Jeanne and Chrissy certainly didn't. As Jack whisked Karen away, Jeanne and Chrissy stood in the middle of their living room, the J cake sitting forgotten on the counter. The birthday dinner was effectively ruined. "He's a fink," Jeanne said, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "A nice fink," Chrissy corrected, though she didn't sound convinced as she poked the J on the cake. Chapter 3: The Freeway Fiasco. The night was supposed to be a simple transaction, $50 for a few hours of chaperoning. But Karen had other ideas. As they cruised the Santa Monica freeway in Stanley's overheating sedan vehicle that smelled like old cigars and desperation, the dynamic shifted. Karen wasn't interested in the museum or the pier. She was interested in Jack. She leaned in close, her perfume filling the cramped cabin of the car, overriding the scent of Stanley's upholstery. "You don't act like a man who lives with two women," she purred, her hand resting dangerously close to his on the gear shift. Jack gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He was trying to remember the safe persona he had cultivated for Roper. Well, every man's entitled to a night off. Professional boundaries, you know. "Not on my time," she whispered, her voice dropping an octave. Then the car groaned. A plume of white steam erupted from the hood of classic Roper vehicle malfunction. They were stranded on the shoulder of the freeway, the neon lights of the city mocking them from a distance. The radiator had finally given up the ghost. Back at the apartment, the mood was somber. Jeanne and Chrissy were sharing a bottle of cheap wine, the kind that came in a jug and tasted like regrets. The J cake was finely sliced, but nobody was hungry. "Do you dig him, Chrissy?" Jeanne asked suddenly, the wine loosening her tongue and peeling back her sensible layers. Chrissy paused, a forkful of Jimmy frosting halfway to her mouth. She looked at the empty chair where Jack usually sat. "He's okay. He's funny. He makes good eggs." "Why?" "I mean, if he wasn't living here, if the whole situation didn't exist, would you?" Chrissy blushed a deep crimson. "I asked you first." "No," Jeanne said firmly, staring into her wine glass. Then, after a long silence, "Not unless he asked me to, 3 times, in writing." The realization that their third of the rent was also a man who occupied a significant, albeit confusing, space in their hearts was an uncomfortable one. They were jealous, not just of the night out, but of the